Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring session looking at Edmund Ironside, true chronicle history. War hath made all friends. So hopefully at the end of this everyone's going to be happy and friendly because they've done lots of fighting. That's what the title's telling me it's all going to be about. So that's what we should all have. If you want everyone to be friends, start a war. I think that may not be quite accurate. Anyway, we're halfway through the play. We've got to Act 3, Scene 5 in the way that it has been labelled, though I don't think the original manuscript actually has any meaningful scene or act divisions. That's, I think, later editors have stepped in. And we have this wonderful team of readers to complete the text. So, reading today, Edmund Ironside themselves, and soldier number 2 is...
Hello, Dan, actor, hailing today from Philly.
And reading the moderately villainous Edricus, another soldier, and Egina is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
And reading the... I wouldn't say he's villainous, but he's got some issues. Canutus and Emma is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian. I'm in Hull.
Reading Stitch, Alfred's another soldier, and Leofric today is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
And reading Uskataulf, Edward, and Turkillus is...
Leo, I'm in Bristol.
Reading Southampton and Aylward is...
Me, Briony, Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Roger, messenger, and soldier number 3 is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm a teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
And reading Alfric, Gunthranus, and Godwin is...
Hi, Alan Scott, still in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions, generally keeping us moving forward. And without further ado, we're going to crack on straight into the text. We have just left an epic battle sequence where the two opposing forces, Edmund Ironside on one side and King Canute on the other, have fought. Edmund has managed to turn the day to his favour after some doubt as to the final outcome. And he's done a happy speech about how happy he is. And then we dive into Act 3, Scene 5, where the less successful side of King Canute, or Canutus, Edricus, and other lords and soldiers enter.
A plague upon you all for arrant cowards. Look how a dunghill cock, not rightly bred, doth come into the pit with greater grace, brushling his feathers, setting up his plumes, clapping his wings, and crowing louder than doth a cock of game that means to fight. Yet after, when he feels the spurs to prick, crakes like a craven and bewrays himself. Even so, my big-boned Danes are dressed to fight as though they meant to scale the cope of heaven, and like the giants grapple with the gods. At first encounter rush upon their foes, but straight retire. Retire? Nay, run away, as men distraught with lightning from above, or dastards feared with a sudden fray.
Renowned sovereign, do not fret yourself. Fortune in turning will exalt your state and change the countenance of her cloudy brow. Now you must hope for better still and better, and Edmund must expect still worse and worse. A lowering morning proves a fairer day. Fortune's ill-favoured frown shows she will smile on you and frown on Ironside.
What tell'st thou me of fortune and her frowns, of her sour visage and her rolling stone? Thy tongue rolls headlong into flattery. Now by these heavens above our wretched heads, ye are but cowards, every one of you. Edmund is blessed. Oh, had I but his men, I would no doubt to conquer all the world in shorter time than Alexander did. But all my Danes are braggadocios, and I accursed to be the general of such a flock of fearful runaways.
Southampton.
Remember, you have lost 10,000 men, all English-born except 1,000 Danes. Your pensive looks will kill them that survive, if thus to choler you give liberty.
It were no matter if they were all were slain. Then they should never run away again.
My noble lord, our countrymen are safe. In all these broils, English gainst English fight. The Danes, or none, or very few are slain.
It was a sign ye fled and did not fight. Is not a dishonour unto you to see a foreign nation fight for me, when as my homebred countrymen do run, leaving the king amongst his enemies?
Give not such scope to humorous discontent. We are all partners of your private griefs. Kings are the heads, and if the head but ache, the little finger is distempered. We grieve to see you grieved, which hurteth us, and yet avails not to assuage your grief. You are the sun, my lord, we marigolds. When as you shine, we spread ourselves abroad, and take our glory from your influence. But when you hide your face or darken it with the least encounter of a cloudy look, we close our eyes as partners of your woes, drooping our heads as grass down weighed with dew. Then clear ye up, my lord, and cheer up us, for now our valours are extinguished, and all our force lies drowned in brinish tears, as jewels in the bottom of the sea. I do beseech your grace to hear me speak.
And Edricus talks to him is an interesting stage direction there we can discuss later.
I do not like this humour in my son. 'Twill quite discourage all his followers.
He stops his ears to all persuasions. His counsel cannot be admitted speech. His father Svein was much more patient, and could as well brook loss as victory.
These words proceed not from a shallow brain.
Praise the event, my lord. The end is all. In the meantime, I'll go right to Ironside, craving forgiveness, and insinuate his yielding favour. He is pitiful, and I am rare in moving passion. I know the prince will quickly credit me, and put affiance in my smooth pretence. But whatsoe'er he doth or minds to do, you shall be sure to have intelligence. But, good my lord, leave me a little while to private contemplation, for my head swims full of plots and other stratagems of great avail, and I must empty it.
God prosper what thou dost intend.
Pray to the devil. God is not my friend.
And exeunt Canutus, Edricus remains behind.
Stitch! What? Stitch! Call in Stitch!
Enter Stitch.
Here's a stitching indeed. You have made Stitch have a stitch in his side with coming so hastily after dinner.
Why, villain, darest thou eat meat in these troublesome times?
Dare I eat meat? Aye, and eat time, be he never so troublesome, my lord, were Mars himself made of beef and brewis, I durst in this caloric stomach devour him quick.
Sure, you're a tall man.
Aye, sir, at the end of a fray and beginning of a feast.
Well, fetch me paper and a cornograph.
A horn grafter? What's that, sir?
Sirrah, I mean an inkhorn.
You mean well, sir, a black horn. You have dipped your pen in many a men's inkhorn besides your own.
Exit Stitch.
My state may be compared unto his, that ventures all his credit and his wealth upon the fickle hazard of a die. The crown I level at, I venture life, the dearest jewel and of greatest price that any mortal hath possession of. My life is sweet, yet will I venture it, at all or nothing. Trust a mother wit.
Enter Stitch with paper and an inkhorn.
Here, sir, I would never have men that are unmarried, so unprovided as they should be compelled to borrow horns of young men. Nor would I have young men to borrow inkhorns of married men. Oh, It is perilous when their foreheads proves blushing papers to bewray young buds.
Sirrah, be gone, but be not far from hence. I presently shall have occasion to employ you in some serious business.
I will be absent when you call, I warrant you.
Exit Stitch. Edricus sits down, writeth and blotteth.
Nay, try thy wits. Thou writest for a wager. 'Tis not for gold, but grace and for thy life, a thing that would put spirit in a block and be a whetstone to a blunter head. With what exordium shall I win his heart? How shall I tie his ears to my discourse? A schoolboy hath a readier wit than I. I never tried my barren sconce till now, and now I see I am not Edricus, but a most blockish and dull-pated hind, gravelled at such an easy enterprise. What standest thou trifling and delaying time? Fetch fire from heaven and mix it with thy ink. Gather Parnassus dew and write with that. Pluck Killen's feathers and make pens with them. Borrow the muses' aid and let them breathe some dulcet and melodious harmony, some never heard of words into thy pate.
He writeth and blotteth.
Ah, fool, how hard it is to write for life. Had I now written for my mistress' love, I could have filled my pen and raised my speech unto the highest step of flattery. Had I now written for another man to save his life or get him into grace, why, all the world might have given place to me for sugared lines and phrases past compare. Had I been now in favour with the king and had endeavoured to flatter him, my pen would have distilled golden drops and varied terms enchanting Cerberus. But now I know not how or what to write. To flatter were to aggravate my fault, for anger would sift out my vile intent. Plainly to write were to accuse myself, and be a witness against my guilty soul. Yet write I will, and in the plainest sort, for that is cousin German unto truth. Truth needs no colours, though I mean to lie, my simple writing shall deceive his eye.
He writeth and saith.
Aye, so. O rare conceited piece of work, how cunningly thou canst convert thy shape into an angel when thou dost intend to flatter the plain honest meaning king.
He folds it up.
Now, for a swift wing-footed messenger to fly in post, that I might follow him, it more behooves me to be circumspect, and with my life to trust none but myself. Swifter than sure is no good messenger, and now I think on it, oh, 'tis excellent. I'll for this once deliver it myself, but in disguisement of my man's attire, so I may safely go and understand how Edmund is addicted unto me, and how all matters now are managed. Stitch! Stitch!
Enter Stitch.
Your will, sir?
My will is that you will uncase, for I mean to change apparel.
Why, sir, you'll not turn wiseman, will you?
Yes, fool, for this once. Come, I say when.
Marry, sir, when I see some boot coming roundly from you, for I promise you I will not change without boot.
But I will, sirrah. Come, dispatch.
Well, sir, since there is shift, but I must change shifts, I am contented. By my troth, sir, methinks you're a properer man by odds in those that ye were in these. I would I could persuade him to believe me, then it should be known by his apparel what a fool I have made of him. Sir, shall we change living in lordship and name and all?
I, Stitch. For this once thou shalt be Lord Edricus, and I, Stitch. Look you keep in till I come home, I advise you, and behave yourself like a lord.
I warrant you, good Stitch, I'll be lordly enough. Farewell, honest Stitch, farewell, fool.
Exit Stitch.
Now am I Edricus, an Edricus man, the secretary and the messenger, all to effect with counterfeiting guile, experiments of matchless policy. Well, this plain suit doth now contain more wit than for so mean a piece of cloth is fit.
And exit Edricus. And to just finish off this piece of logical action, Act 3, Scene 6, enter Stitch in his lord's attire with blue coats after him.
Come on, ye blue-coated slaves, you that wear satin doublets never but at good times, and wear a blue coat but once in a year. Come on, I say, ye trenchers, scrapping cutters, ye cloak bag carriers, ye sword and buckler carriers, ye rubbers of horse heels, ye devourers of fat oxen, ye swillers of March beer, come after me. I say, take example after my virtue, how to mount. I proceeding from the loins of a man very little better than a gentleman am now by my virtue and good education to be your master, your upholders, the staff of your lives and maintainer of your masterships. Uncover, ye rogues, so cover, so sirrah, take my cloak, bear you my rapier. So I am somewhat humorous, and it becomes me well. Follow me, follow, how I can play the Lord's part. Oh, what a fool is my master to change his nobility for my worship.
Blood, Sir Stitch, you must go in. Here's a following. We must wait on you, must we?
Blood, sir, you must go in. Oh, hold me, I am choleric. Why, ye shake rag, had ye never a lord under your girdle? Plain Sir Stitch without welt or guard. Why, how now, you malapert knave, have ye forgot all good manners?
Good manners be your speed.
Why, this 'tis to keep familiar serving man. As I am a lord, by my honor, I will revenge it with putting you out of my house. You fellows, take example by his punishment. Follow me just 3 foot behind, not above or beneath, and Roger Rachael, for your sauciness, come you last.
And exeunt. And we pause. So, yeah, we've sort of got our heads back in the game, I think, with a reasonably chunky section. And, yeah, we've got 2 very different modes of action going on here. We've got Canute blaming everybody for being rubbish, whether that's justified or not. And then we have this Edricus vein here of trying to figure out what cunning plan he's going to write out. And so when he's talking about blotting, it's not necessarily blotting as in blotting paper. This is crossing out. No, this bit wasn't good enough. I'll come up with something better. And then it shifts again to disguise. It's going to swap clothes with his servant. That's going to lead to some hilarious comedy with Stitch, which is kind of a scene we've seen before, or rather later, because it's similar action turns up later on in Thomas Cromwell, though played in a slightly different way. So yeah, lots of different things happening across these sequence of scenes. Thoughts in the room? Who wants to leap in? Elizabeth and then Lynn.
I just wanted to say, for our early modern bingo, we've got the disguise and the swapping places with the servant. That's happened already.
Yeah. Yeah, we've really got to get these bingo cards printed, haven't we?
Yeah.
Lynn.
This long soliloquy by Edricus is broken up with some stage directions. But is this not all over the shop? I mean, he has just told King Canutus, "Oh, I'm witty, I'm articulate. I can get Edmund to believe me. I'm persuasive." And then he starts to write, and he's like, "A schoolboy is smarter than I am. I'm my Baron Sconce. If I were trying to write a different kind of letter, I'd be good at it. But this is I can't. I'm struggling with this." And he talks about basically my guilty soul. He talks about what a bad person he is. But in the end, he gets the letter written, and then he switches clothes with his servant so he can be his own messenger. I don't know. I think this would be some work for an actor to kind of make this whole thing fly and to make a kind of persuasive arc out of it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it on a character level. I think there is an issue about we've gone from high action to suddenly someone alone with a bit of paper. I mean, it's a very, very different energy level. But maybe the play needs a different energy level. Maybe there's actually, as a response to having lots of action, let's pull it back a bit, especially after, you know, all the bloodshed and the limbs chopping off. I think it's quite nice that Edricus, on a character level, he keeps making all these promises, and then he sits down to write the check and goes, actually, you know, and it's also that class thing as well. How good is his education, actually? You know, and this, I mean, he gets there in the end. But actually, you know, it's like me and trying to write funding proposals. You know, I know exactly what I want to ask for, but you know, when you have to sit down and actually write it down, oh God, kill me with death. I quite like that. But yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic about what's going on there. Helen,
I think it's very interesting that Edricus does not have a sufficiently responsible servant to send as a messenger, that there's nobody in his household who's got both the wit and the loyalty to do the job for him. He ends up having to do it himself. I mean, he makes a good excuse for why it'd be a good idea for him to do it himself. But in fact, all he's got is Stitch, and Stitch is quite frankly unreliable.
yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. You wouldn't let Stitch do anything without supervision. Alan,
I think actually Edricus, even if he had a servant who was trustworthy, wouldn't trust them with this, because he's trying to play both sides against the middle. And, you know, the problem with any conspiracy in a play is that someone sooner or later blabs it to the wrong person.
And following on from this scene with Canutus as well, where, you know, Canutus is just constantly talking about these people running away and they failed him, and you know, everyone's let him down. You know, Dan.
Just to follow up on the first session, this, I think, for me, clinches the fact that tonally there has to be some levity. There is some levity in this play. I don't think there's any way this scene can be played not for somewhat for laughs.
It's that question of, you know, anything with Stitch on feels like that he's there for the comedy. I'm not sure about where that whole letter sequence, how that functions actually, whether that's supposed to be funny or not. Could be played as the dark night of his soul. I don't know if it quite goes.
Or at least, yeah, or at least just a lighter moment. Definitely.
It's definitely a different energy. And then, say, we got this scene with Stitch lording it over everyone. You know, out of my way, blue-coated people. Helen may have a thought on the colour blue.
Yes, blue was a servant's colour, not the lapis lazuli blue, the woad blue, the dark blue. If your coat was provided by your master, as it mostly was if you're a domestic servant, it would be in that dark blue. So that's what the blue coat symbolizes. It's why policemen and firemen and everybody else all ended up with blue, because they're public servants.
Cool. Rachael.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this letter moment because I do agree that I think this is Edricus and Stitch are some bit of a comedy duo, and that Edricus is the straight man, and Stitch is the one who's doing all this stuff. So I think this letter writing, it could be the dark night of his soul, but you know, if you're watching it, you just get knocked out by Stitch because he doesn't care and he's having his own storyline. And it's kind of like Edricus sets him up and then Stitch knocks him back down.
It's Edmund Blackadder sitting down to write out the dictionary overnight. That's how it sort of feels to me. And then Baldric sort of saunters in. That may not be properly apposite. Anyway, we will move on as we go into what's labelled as Act 4. Let's see where we are with Edmund. We haven't heard that much about Edmund. Let's see if we get more Edmund action from Edmund. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Edmund Ironside, Alfric, Godwin, Aylward with Edricus disguised. So that little scene with Stitch, primarily probably so that Edricus can get into his costume.
What wind doth cause your master write to us? All is not well, I doubt. Give me the letter. Perilous is brought to punish me, or some never heard of torturing pain to scourge me for my foul ingratitude. Rumor did raise suspicion in my heart, as it hath lately done within your breast, by some who envied my prosperity, my love and zeal unto your majesty, that you were doubtful of my spotless truth and meant to cut me off by cutting short my headless body with a bloody axe. This on a sudden coming to my ear, it pared my heart and struck me to the quick, causing me to flee the courts to save my life, as sadly as the late espoused man grieves to depart from his new married wife. How many sighs I fetched at my depart, how many times I turned to come again, how oft I plained, how oft I did weep, were too long to write or you to read. Having now considered with myself my overlight belief, too credulous, I come again to a strayed sheep, tainted God wot with naught but ignorance. Oh, take me to your mercy, or if not so, kill me yourself. Death is the end of woe. Hear ye, my lords, this humble supplication. Your master is become an orator, but tell him, Edmund is not lunatic, so like a woman to be worn with words.
This cotton's not according to my mind. The king is angry. See, he faceth me. His colour comes and goes. I hold my life he knows me. Would I were well away.
Harkye, my lords, what would you say if yon plain fellow should be Edricus?
I think not so, my lord.
I'll quickly know. Come hither, fellow. Tell thy master thus.
And he pulls the velvet patch off his face.
Oh, Edricus, it's you. I thought no less. You meant some good, no doubt. Tell me the truth. What was the reason you came thus disguised?
Now wit, or never, help. Poor naked truth hath taken away suspicion of deceit. I need no art. Art cannot help me now. Then plainly thus, renowned sovereign, I came thus plainly to your majesty, disguised in clown's attire, to sound the truth. What opinion, if good or bad, you had of me, and if I found it good, I had determined to bewray myself. If otherwise, I meant with secret speed to leave my native country and to exile myself from England, sailing into Spain. Whereas I meant in contemplation, in pilgrimage and prayers for your grace to end my life.
And enter a messenger running.
Haste, haste, King Edmund, to deliver thy land, which is oppressed by multitudes of Danes. They swarm along thy coasts like little gnats over a river in a summer's night, or like bees when they begin to flight. So comes these Danes prepared, fit to fight. Their battle main of 70,000 men with bristle-pointed spears which upright stand shows like a new shred grove of ashes tall, or else a wood of pines and cedars small. Their flags and banners, yellow, blue, and red, resemble much the weeds in ripened corn. Their drums and trumpets with the dreadful sound of clashing armor and fire-breathing steeds sound like the fearful thunder sent from heaven, mixed with Aeola's boisterous northern breath. They prey upon thy subjects cruelly, like hungry tigers upon silly kids, sparing not ancient men for reverence, nor women for their imbecility, nor guiltless babes for their unspotted life, nor holy men Their madness is so rife.
Sunshine day is quickly overcast. A springing bud is killed with a blast. I see my state is fickle and unsure. There is nothing in this world that can firmly dure, yet courage, lords. We were and are the same. Our hearts are sound, our bodies are not lame. Then let not fear dismay your warlike might. God fights for us, God will defend the right. Base Edricus, thou wert the fatal crow that by thy horrid voice this news did show. Thou camest to gain with cursed treachery the surname of vile nickname policy. Right did I think, when as the fox did preach, he meant to get a goose within his reach. Right did I guess, when with thy oily speech thou didst my pardon and my grace beseech. Some mischief were a broach, but God above doth always at a pinch my patron prove. We have now learned, though to our bale, not to believe each smooth-faced forged tale.
Now, my most gracious lord, as God shall help me, my coming was only for this intent, to unfold Canutus's coming and bewray matters of secret to your majesty, counsels of great avail, rare stratagems plotted by Canutus, which now shall die with me if you seem any whit suspicious.
I pray thee hark, let me hear some of them.
And Edricus talketh with Edmund secretly. Alfric pulls him back.
Traitor, darest thou presume to speak unto thy sovereign? Good my lord, as God shall help me, you will be entrapped.
Traitor? Remember this, malice hath a perfect memory.
Alfric, you are to blame, you do forget yourself. Age makes you dote. Know I not what to do without your telling? Go to, hold your peace.
Alfric, your comb is cut, yet will I speak. King, I am sworn to counsel thee aright, and though I die, I will not hold my tongue. Remember, he hath often broke his faith, and fled away from you. Remember too, he comes from Canutus, thy utter enemy. Remember, he is a traitorous flatterer, a villain, and a damned hypocrite.
He say what? Hold your tongue. My youth in some things overruns your age. 'Tis policy to grant him audience, nay, further grace, nay, further if he craves, perhaps the leading of our army too. But thus I think it stands he hath promised Canutus, having the leading of our forces, to yield to him, seeming as though compelled, having first given an onset on the foe for colour's sake. But we will overmatch him. For whilst the force of Canute on policy retires by Edric's drift, then will we take the opportunity and rush with speed upon his troops, who unprepared to fight and trusting upon Edric's policy shall all come prey unto our soldiers. How like you this?
It cannot happen amiss.
Come hither, Edricus. Faith, Eli. Tut, tut, it cannot be. If this be true, I pardon thee for all, and will reward thee with deserved grace. I will not doubt it. Faith, I think 'tis true, though it were not in hope thou wilt amend. Go, let us in, and let all quarrels end, for now I mean indeed to credit thee by being Captain General of my army.
Duty and thanks I give, 'tis all I have. See what dissimulation brings to pass, how quickly I can make the king an ass.
Excellent. Okay, there's an interesting little scene. Well, yeah. I'm interested in the velvet patch off his face. What actually? I mean, and talking about he's disguised in clown's attire. I mean, there's no doubt within the world of the play, let alone outside of the world of the play, that Stitch is a clown. So that there's something interesting about what the disguise actually looks like and how that functions. The fact that Edmund sees through a disguise. We've had a few spates of people seeing through disguise of late. Normally we say early modern disguises are absolute and impenetrable, but actually no, we've got quite a few examples now. A little nod to morality plays, the alternative names for a character like this, policy. That seems like that's nodding to something like that. And then this thing, what do you do? Do you try and use him as a double agent? And this whispering section that is perhaps not clear for anyone watching the video. Edmund there has a number of stage directions with his listening to Edricus, and it's they whisper, "If faith you lie." Whisper again, it cannot be. And yeah, being led willingly or unwillingly down the garden path by Edricus here. How can you trust him? Well, he makes it quite clear at the end you can't trust him. But maybe Edmund is clever enough to see through what the lies will be. I don't know. Thoughts from the room. This scene's doing, again, a lot of interesting work. Danes are on the move again. Messenger sends bad news. Who wants to leap in? Helen.
I read the Messenger yesterday, and he was in a hurry. It's an awful lot of messengers actually stroll on in these plays. But in this play, the messengers are rushing. It's a thing with it. Whoever wrote this, get that messenger moving.
Yeah, sponsored by a trainer manufacturer. There is that sense of trying to inject a sense of urgency. But maybe after that long letter scene, want to maybe to get the tempo back up again. Other thoughts? Ooh, Elizabeth.
I think that Edricus is playing a very dangerous game here. I don't know, either he's very brave or very stupid to be in the court of Ironside and to be trying to play a double agent. As an audience, we're not sure, I don't think yet, who he's loyal to, where his loyalties lie. Which does add a sort of certain flavour to the play, actually. It does add a certain suspense and tension to the play. But I do think that, Edricus is playing a very, very dangerous game here.
And the fact he's issuing threats when someone steps up against him, he goes, I've got a long memory. Don't you say bad things about me to the king. So, yeah, and he's backed into a corner. The moment he's uncovered, it's like, what game do you play? So he's sort of making stuff up as he's going along. And the way his speeches are structured when he's been uncovered is suddenly these lots of really short, I don't, boo, because he's thinking. And that's quite nicely written, actually. I like that. Lynn, and then Alan.
Yeah, he absolutely is playing a very dangerous game, and I think he knows it. I think he's doing that deliberately. He said in the scene where he's got that long soliloquy that he's just like a man who has hazarded everything on the throw of dice, right? And he wants to be king, evidently. So he's risking it all in hopes of gaining it all. So yeah, it is a really dangerous game, and I think it does sort of heighten the tension nicely, even though if you know the history, it's like, that's not going to happen. But yeah, he is really ambitious and really self-serving, but he kind of knows that this could all go horribly, horribly wrong, and is doing it anyway. Right?
Absolutely. I don't think he's got any other direction to go. Actually, I think he's started. Once you start playing the game, you're locked in. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that struck me was that the repartee when he's in that court sequence where he's actually verbally battling with Edmund and with Edmund's loyal followers, he's considerably more articulate than he is in the reported letter, over which he was shown as labouring long and hard. So he obviously works better in real time rather than when he's actually got time to sit down and think about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Act 4, Scene 2. We get some new... We're slowly getting the odd sort of additional body coming into play now. And here we have the introduction of Emma. Enter Emma, her two sons, Alfred and Edward, in each hand, and Gunthranus going before.
Sweet boys, born to be crossed before your time. Oh, let me kiss you ere you go away. Cursed be the cause of your departing thus, the persecution of these bloody Danes, whose unrelenting eyes delight to see the full conclusion of our tragedy.
Good mother, sorrow not, though we depart. We shall be welcome to our uncle Richard, and safer there than in this troubled isle, which like the reeling sea is tossed with war. Here we are ever in continual broils, there in tranquility, in peace and rest. Here in the midst of unknown enemies, there in the arms of true approved friends. Here danger imminent doth compass us, their friends and friendly counsel shall defend us. Therefore rejoice we are escaped the Danes, whose greedy maws devours the Saxons' blood like hungry lions, devoid of any good.
Good boy, in whom thy father's features lives, though death hath seized him in his wasteful arms, if I could moderate my grieved mind without remembrance whate'er now I was, then should my grief diminish with my tears. But memory, the afflicter of the soul, bids me remember how I was a queen, how Ethelredus was my lawful lord, how Norman's duke was my renowned sire, how England was my pleasure's paradise, and how time was when time did wait on me. All these are but bellows to the fire to burn my heart, consumed afore with sighs. Alfred, Ned is a child. Thou art of age to take example by my misery, not to believe in fortune's flattery.
Good mother, weep not. If ye do, I'll cry.
Oh, my pretty heart, hast thou a feeling of my passion? Then I will weep the more to ease my heart. I'll mourn for thee, for him and for myself, for England and for Edmund Ironside, whose part God prosper, heaven defend the right.
Madam, your helpless tears are but a means to draw more tears from us to drown our hearts.
Why, man, I weep to ease and not to load. I trow the more I shed, the less I have, and as my tears waste, so my cares consume. To damn my eyes were but to drown my heart, like Hecuba, the woeful queen of Troy, who having no avoidance for her grief, ran mad for sorrow, because she could not weep. But good Gunthranus, to omit vain talk, since I have heretofore approved thy faith, I make a choice of thee, amongst the rest of many friends, to guide my little boys, and to conduct them into Normandy. Entreat my brother, for to entreat them well. They are his nephews and his sister's joy. If anything amiss should light on them, the same on me should be redoubled.
Madam, even by the living God I vow, I will attend and watch them as my soul, knowing Duke Richard will accompt of them as nigh of blood unto his royal self.
Then farewell, boys, the comfort of my life. And they offer to depart.
They indeed offer to depart, yes.
Yet come again, ye shall not so depart. If that we die, we'll choose to die together. Dying or living, we will be together. Fond woman, bless them and then let them go. That is the safest way to keep them safe. Then farewell again. God bless you both.
They offer to depart again.
But soft a while, I have not said my mind. First let me wash your face in mother's tears, then sob out sighs to overload the earth and cast a misty fog upon the air, that no inquiring foe may find you out. Oh, let your sanctuary be my lap.
And having embraced them, she sits down, setting Edward on her knee and Alfred on her arm.
Your refuge, your sepulchres, your graves, a cradle fits you better than a ship.
See, Dame Nature's operation. what force it breeds within a mother's mind. None feels a mother's sorrow but a mother. This queen hath not her peer upon the earth, for wisdom, suffering, and for patience, for cloaking sorrow and dissembling grief, and bearing all things with a constant mind. Yet can she not conceal affection so, but that it breaketh forth like hidden fire.
And Emma riseth.
Fie. Hide nature's fond indulgency. Depart, sweet boys. God keep you in the way.
They offer to depart.
Come hither, Alfred. Ned, I prithee stay. I will go with you to the foaming haven and take my farewell of my darlings there.
And they exit. So, yes, evacuation, a farewell constantly deferred. What an interesting scene with characters that we've pretty much never met before. A series of relationships that are not necessarily immediately clear. How are we feeling about that scene?
I'm confused. So Edmund Ironside has two little brothers? Is that what that is about? That this is his mother and his two younger brothers?
It's not his mother. They are they half brothers?
Oh,
hang on.
Yeah, this is a very confused bit in my mind, because I was one of the reasons I was distracted was I was also trying to figure out who was related to who and who was supposed to be married to who and who what's going on, of which I am now quite confused. So it's complicated. Within the logic of the play, it's all excellent question. Helen, do you have any thoughts on this?
Okay. The lady in question is Emma of Normandy, who was married to Ethelred the Unready. He had Edmund Ironside by a previous marriage, so she is stepmother to Edmund Ironside. She has two children, Alfred, who doesn't last long, and Edward, who has the habit of confessing. You may have heard of him. That's little Edward. What actually Emma is doing at this point doesn't appear to be in the play's logic, so I will say no more about that.
So, but it's a lovely scene, but in the sense that we don't really know who these people are or why they're there and precisely how it all fits together, it does stick out a bit. So I think we'll just hold off on comment on that for the moment, see if later scenes help explicate where we are. There's a lot more we could say about who's related to whom and how this whole logic monkey dances, but I think we'll be able to talk about that better once we've done the whole play. Act 4, Scene 3, we're back to King Canute with a letter in his hand, with him Uskataulf, Swetho. I'll read Swetho for you, everyone. Southampton, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Egina with soldiers.
Courage, brave captains, conquest is at hand. This letter comes from trusty Edricus and certifies me that he is in grace with Edmund Ironside and how he leads the vanguard of the prince's army. Now he assures me of the victory without the loss of many soldiers, for he will disappoint the warlike youth and flee to us, leaving him desolate. Wherefore, brave soldiers, put forth all your might to quail their stomachs at the first approach. He that doth take the prince in flight or fight shall have his ransom and be dubbed a knight.
I'll venture hard to make Joan my wife a lady.
King shall scape my fingers narrowly.
Mass, if I had steel sides as he hath iron sides, I would gore him then, that I would.
What if I miss the king? I'll have a duke, an earl, a lord, or a knight, or gentleman.
Or nobody, and then you'll hit it. Tell not your chickens, sirs, ere they be hatched, perchance the eggs are rotten in the nest. Then all your brooding hopes is cast away, and you remain as rich as new-shorn sheep. I never loved to gain by treachery, for that again was lost by treachery. I do remember hardy Hannibal did use these words at one Tarentum's loss. Idem arte qua prius coepimus Tarentum ossimus. Fraud won Tarentum, fraud Tarentum lost. So Hannibal reaps his labour for his cost.
The drums sound afar off.
So, Edmund, so thou comest unto thy cost, thy roaring drum presageth thy mishap, ringing thy soul's knell with a hollow voice, as thine doth mourn. So let our drum rejoice.
And the drums sound again. Enter Edmund with Edricus, other lords and soldiers. They fight! Fighting action. Lovely. And Canutus gives exeunt. Enter. We're going to run into the next scene. Act 4, Scene 4. Enter at one door Canutus, at the other Edricus.
Edricus!
My lord, hi, cheer your flying troops and bid them stay a while for victory. When as you see me lead my men aloof, then take occasion in the stay of the prince, and I'll be absent when he needs me most, and present for your best avail. Make haste.
How much I love thee, Edricus, heavens do know, and I with gifts one day will manifest.
Exit Canute.
So, Edric, now thy plot form is afoot, and one shall die, it skills no matter which. If Edmund, Canute shall quickly follow him. If Canute, then Edmund shall not stay behind. Whilst they with eager blows assail each other, I here remain a neuter, free from fear, not taking part with Canute, not Ironside, before I see who gets the victory. Yet had I rather have Canutus conquer and privily will aid him with supplies, rather than Edmund should escape the field.
And alarum. Enter Edmund, chasing off Canutus. Edricus backs Canutus. Edmund flies. Exeunt and return Canutus with Edricus.
Thanks, worthy Edric, for this victory. This day hath made an end of me and mine, hadst thou not backed us with thy warlike troops. Know ye Edmund be escaped or no?
Edmund is gone, and I must after him. To stay long here would breed suspicion. Then, mighty Canute, live long a conqueror, and when thou hast the crown, remember me.
If I forget thee, God forget my suit, when like a sinner I do humbly pray. Forget thee, Edric, God above doth see how good a heart I ever bore to thee.
Then, noble Canutus, I pawn a soldier's faith. Be my best blood, and by my after hopes, I will remain to thee and to thy heirs, as true as false to Edmund Ironside. Let us not linger here. Muster your men and make them ready for a new assault. I will to Edmund and excuse myself, and how I served him now, I'll serve him then.
And exeunt. So, once again, we're back into fighty territory. A lot of fight business going on here that we're... obviously, that's all down to the fight choreography and it being exciting, but yeah, it's this constant facing off between Canute and Edmund. In this case, we have Edricus sort of going, I'll just wait, see which way the wind is blowing before I leap in and make any kind of decision, and continues to try and play both sides against the middle. So, yeah, mostly structural. Just to say stuff's going on, drums, fightiness. Thoughts in the room about where we are, what Act 4's been doing overall. It does sort of feel like more of Act 3. It does feel like we've just done more of what we've already done. Lynn?
I'm still confused. So Edmund said something a couple of scenes ago or in the previous scene to one of his advisors, something about we'll pretend we believe Edricus, and then when the enemy lets their guard down, they'll attack. Something like, I didn't really follow, but I guess that didn't work out the way Edmund thought it would. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, it definitely seems that they've given battle in the usual sense, and yet it's all really going to be down to Edricus whose side he ends up landing on that's tipped the balance.
Right.
But why you would trust Edricus is when everyone's saying, "Why are you trusting Edricus? He's a traitor. He's already a traitor. We know he's a traitor. Why are we expecting great things from him?" Rachael.
I mean, it probably isn't what I'm about to say. I don't think the text is intending it this way, but maybe he's keeping somebody that he suspects is a spy within the ranks so that he could tell him things that are not true, even if it's not in the, from a character perspective, to approach it that way might help as a ruler.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of that in there. Helen.
Yeah, it's what Rachel's saying, I think, is keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Mm. Yeah, because if they're lying to you and you know they're lying, you can do a double negative on what they're saying to make a plan. I don't think in practice that's how it's coming across on stage. It's just simply that he's the additional weight that lands on one side or another at a crucial point in the battle. I think Alan's put in the chat, he is very like Bosworth Field, where Stanley weighs in of just going, for more noble reasons than this, let's be honest. It's sun captured. It's a very different situation. It's a odd little sequence. I'd say that whole act does feel like we're not necessarily gaining new momentum either side. We're sort of repeating similar stuff that we've already had, but with more of an emphasis on Edricus's betrayals, which is interesting and may flow perfectly well on stage. I think also we're struggling slightly because a lot of the action is action and we can't see the action. These stage fights presumably go on for a while and they should be brilliantly staged to work, and obviously we can't do that. So more time has passed than perhaps we think it has. Anyway, we must move on. Let's go into what's been labelled as Act 5 and see if we have some kind of conclusion to this war. Canutus seems to have the upper hand at the moment, but I don't think anything's settled. Act 5, Scene 1, re-enter Edmund Ironside, Alfric, Ulfkettle. I'm assuming that's a typo just for Ulf. What is that? Nah, it must be Uskataulf, surely. Well, I'm going to ask Uskataulf to read it because I've no idea who the hell that's supposed to be. Anyway, Godwin and others.
Vile Edricus, all this proceeds from him. I saved his life, and he doth thirst for mine. Ungrateful wretch, hellish incarnate devil. For sure no man was ever so unkind unto his king and loving countrymen. Disloyal and unfaithful sycophant, it grieves my vexed soul to think on thee.
Let it not grieve you, rather joy to think your escape from the hands of him that sought, like Judas, to betray his Lord into the hands of bloodthirsty Danes.
Surely, my lord, you are highly favoured of God, who sees each human action, that he hath given you warning with small loss of the contagious mind of Edricus.
Enter Edricus with his hand in a scarf, halting with him Stitch.
Master, I would not wish you halt.
Why so?
Marry, sir, Alfric is a cripple, and the proverb is, 'tis ill halting before a cripple. He'll perceive it.
Had he as many eyes as Juno's bird, or could pierce millstones with his searching sight, he, by his leave, should not my halting find. I halt not in the thigh, but in the mind. All hail unto my gracious sovereign.
Master, you'll berate yourself. Do you say all hail and yet bear your arm in a scarf? That's hail indeed.
All hail unto my gracious sovereign.
Judas, thy next part is to kiss my cheek and then commit me unto Caiaphas.
I understand not what your highness means.
Oh, heavens, O impudent, ungodly wretch.
I hope your grace does not exclaim on me.
On thee. Hence, graceless wretch, grace me no more. Is there none here that will lay hold on him? His sight, his breath, his fell infectious tongue is venomer than is the basilisk's.
Is this a guerdon for my scars and hurts, for all my bruises and my broken joints? Is this a hire for my hardiness and valiant onset on the enemies? Are these my wages which I won with blood, blood of myself and proudest Dane that fought? Doth Edmund thus reward his followers that pawned their lives for him and in his cause? Then bootless have I skirmished so long, and sent so many Danes unto their graves. In vain have I lifted up my wasting arm, and brandished my falchion o'er thy foes. In vain this curtal axe was reared aloft, which made a lane through thy foemen's troops. In vain my lance did overthrow and spoil. In vain I live to be requited thus.
In vain? What a vain vein my master is in.
Didst thou not fly, vile traitor, to my foe?
Who, I?
Even thou?
Thus forward friends are quitted with suspect. Thus envy blasts the well-deserving wight. Thus the unskillful blames the warrior. Thus, detraction hinders virtuous course. Fled I, my lord? Canutus can report, 'twas he that should have fled had succour come. Fled I, my lord? Your eyes were witnesses, how far my heart was free from dastard flight. But this it is to be a man at arms, when his desert is recompensed with hate, and resolution wronged with ignorance. For shame, my lord, spur not against the truth, thirst not to drink the blood of innocence.
Why, Edricus, canst thou deny thy flight?
No, gracious lord, I must confess I fled, forced from Canutus, not to him for aid, and that 'tis true. I, by your grace's leave, will prove on him that dares affirm a no.
I saw thee fly myself with these my eyes.
And I, my lord, am witness to the same.
And I, my lord, will prove it by your favour.
I would the king would give me leave to speak.
And you will prove them blind, I hold my life.
I give thee leave. Speak for thyself, and spare not.
Seeing your grace so forward to the fight, viewing the Dane to march so bravely on, pricked forth with shame, I as the foremost man, not suffering the Dane to set on us, or to approach your grace without a blow, stepped forth intending to encounter them, and to assail the rearward with my band, till you upon the forefront held them play. But see how good intents are ever thwarted. Ere I could get the wind to compass them, your drum's retreat did cause your forces flee. Yet fled not I afoot until such time, as quite bereft of hope I was compelled. Witness this arm, this serviceable arm, that in despite of death did save my life. Witness these scars, which if your grace will see, they'll tell my foes unto their face they lie.
Oh, horrible scars, scars like blazing stars, well counterfeited, master.
If this be true, I was too credulous.
Oh, we have just briefly lost Edricus there. Who's not in the scene? Helen, are you free?
Yes, sir.
Actually, no, Lynn. Lynn, I know you're free. I'll go to you. Could you read Edricus just for the remainder of the scene, please?
We're in 5.
If it be true, my lord, towards the end of the scene.
If it be true, my lord, assure yourself your grace was misinformed if otherwise, and that my man can verify.
Take heed what ye say, master. I can verify nothing, Mary. I can verify anything if you'll say so. I'll swear to it that 'tis false, I mean.
Then, Edricus, 'Twas I that wronged thee, and I that will in all things make amends. Bury unkindness in oblivion, and ne'er remember our suspicion.
'Twas not your highness, but some fawning mate that put mistrust into your grace's head, hoping by my downfall to raise himself. But heavens defend the wronged innocent.
Let this suffice. Thou hast confirmed our love. And Edricus, we mind to honor thee with public notice of thy loyalty.
See what wit and will can bring about. Canutus pays me for my villainy, and Edmund loves me for my treachery.
Give a man luck and cast him over the gallows.
And they exit. Yeah, it definitely feels like that. This is let's watch Edricus improvise. Seems to be the big game that we're playing in this half of the play. And we've really got to be invested in Edricus as cunning villain who's able to play people and turn his opponents on a sixpence. To turn them around and talk them through, and this whole thing of he's got his arm in a sling. Oh look! Oh! I'm so injured. When presumably it's fine, and yeah, so he's got to be convincing to everybody else. Yeah, that the way this goes back and forth, it's very much become his show. The shift has really started to take effect now as we've gone forward. Thoughts on the room, Lynn?
Yeah, I was just thinking that the titular character hasn't really had that much stage time. I mean, Edricus, it's really turning out to be someone who needs to be very charming and charismatic. He really needs to be electric. He really needs to be irresistible in some way, because there's no reason to trust him that he's telling the truth, but people do.
Constantly. I mean, that seems to be the appeal here, isn't it? And you're right. Edmund doesn't say a lot, doesn't do a lot. I mean, Edmund isn't really making that much of an impact at all, apart from doing some big stagey fights. It does look like they've got someone who can do the stage combat and get away with some moderately long speeches occasionally. But otherwise, that's all they've got to do is do the fight. Okay, any more thoughts? We've got a long scene to come now. I may pause midway through that scene to take stock. Act 5, Scene 2. Enter Canutus, reading of a letter. With him, Southampton, Archbishop of Canterbury, Egina, remember her, Uskataulf, might say something in this scene, and Swetho, who won't say anything in this scene, with soldiers.
My lord, my heart is firmly bound to you, and I am pressed to do you any service. But Edmund is grown strange to me of late, and I am not familiar with his thoughts. When I have once regained opinion, I will not fail to be your faithful agent. In meantime, make ye strong to hold him in play, for he is coming with a mighty power. By Our Lady, this goes hard. These news are naught. Is Edmund now grown wary? Then I doubt I ne'er shall see the day I long have sought. But I must bear a semblance of good news, lest these perceive our hopes to falter, and that would clean discourage all their hearts, for all presume on Edric's policy.
Son, is it good news?
Oh, my lord, exceeding good.
Just a brief pause, because Lynn, are you still in the room to read in Egina? If I could borrow you to just for the...
Sorry, I thought I was done and I was cuddling my dog.
Yeah, I apologise. Yes, if I can ask you to read Egina for the foreseeable.
Okay. My lord, you shall not fight, or is it before that?
Give me the letter as your next line. Act 5, Scene 2, relatively close to the beginning.
Canutus says, my lord, exceeding good.
Okay, here we go. Give me the letter.
Not for all the world. I dare not trust myself with reading it, lest I, cloyed with joy, should play the blab. Let this suffice. I am now confident upon sure-grounded confirmations that Edmund is my own. He writes to me that he is coming with a mighty host, but saith he be not you discomforted. For were they millions, half should fight for you and turn their weapons upon Ironside.
'Tis strange the prince should be so credulous.
And there are drums sounding from afar off.
Your drum doth tell us, Edmund Ironside, unwitting of his overthrow at hand, comes gallantly, attended on by troops of horse and footmen, to his funeral. Oh, that thou knewest thy dying day so nigh, that thou mightst make thee fit to go to God. In faith, it grieves me at the very heart to see him come so unprepared for death.
Enter Edmund, Emma, Archbishop of York, Edricus, Alfric, Godwin, Aylward, everybody comes on. Everybody comes on.
Behold, where Canute comes marching bravely on, methinks yon sight would make a sick man sound.
They march along the stage, one after another.
Canutus,
Edmund,
the ground thou standest upon is Ironsides.
the ground I stand on, Edmund, is mine own, fallen to me, not successively indeed, but by forfeiture, as copyhold, rent run, and wanting reparations, falls to the Lord. Even so thy father's land, for want of tribute paying long since due, I seize upon as Lord to thee and that.
But for thou shalt perceive that Edmund can temper the unruly stomach of his rage, and moderate his lusty youthful blood, which springs through every vein to fly at thee. Not half these words without controlling strokes should from thy lips have vomited their spleen. Oh, how my heart beats. Much ado I have to make it quiet till I answer thee. Art thou the lord of me and of my land? Uncivil Canutus, knowest thou to whom thou speakest? This heart scorns all subjection, and this head looks o'er the world. These feet were made to tread o'er kings, Canutus, over thee. Nay, storm not, Canutus. Learn how to mix thy speech with more beseeming terms, and govern thou thy surly terms with reason, not with rage. I say I am a king, so art not thou. Therefore, I am thy better. I say more. I have a kingdom. This I stand upon is mine. Thou standest upon my ground. I say this land is mine. Canutus, it is mine.
By usurpation thine, by conquest mine. Who knows not conquest is in heritage.
So rape and theft is true possession if malefactors go unpunished?
It seems indeed possession is of force, for by possession you withhold my crown.
Nay, you enswaying your gripple-minded dad by treason, not by force of valiant arms against all justice, law, and equity, did first intrude yourselves, and then extrude our woeful subjects from their native home, and that I come to prove, and therefore, thus.
He draweth.
Then to confute thy forged argument, thus argue I. My sword is reason's proof.
And yes, he draweth as well.
That is a force to put back reason's proof, which proves you like your sword unreasonable.
They train their soldiers on the stage, and Edricus speaketh.
Edmund is strong. Canutus is weak in part. Edmund gracious in the people's eyes. Canutus is not so. What had I best to do? Fain would I have Canutus win, and he is weak. I would have Edmund lose, and he is strong. Oh, gracious stars, inspire my nimble wit with some device, and as I ever have, I will employ it to some villainy. Soft. Let me see. Oh, it is excellent. Fountain of wit, the spring of policy, the flower of treason and of villainy. How much undecent is it that this cap, this homely cape should overload this crow, when thou deservest a crown of beaten gold? But to the matter. So it needs must fadge, for can I bring them to a single fight, whosoever hath the better? Yet shall I be gracious in his eye, as who should say I was the causer of his victory. Besides, I shall insinuate myself into the bosom of opinion, and be esteemed my country's buckler. Well, I'll about it, meaning no man good, but that my speech may shed King Edmund's blood.
The armies make towards one another, when Edricus standeth between them, saith,
Renowned Edmund, first I speak to thee. Let these my words, proceeding from true zeal, beg at thy ears a little audience. And worthy Canutus, sheathe up thy slaughtering sword, till I have spoke my mind, that all may see my words proceed from perfect piety.
Edricus, be brief.
Go to, I'll stay a little, but be not tedious.
When the fox preaches, then beware the geese.
What strive you for, imperious Ironside? Renowned Canutus, what do you level at? We daily to appease your mortal wars offer our slaughtered bodies to the sword, yet neither of you have the upper hand. Today he that was foiled tomorrow foils. He that even now did faintly sound retreat renews again the fight with double force. Thus in quandaries hangs the victory, and wavering fortune frowns and smiles on both. Canutus is not to be overcome, because his brother's fame doth succour him. And Edmund likewise is invincible, for force and valour hews him through his foes. What then is the end of this your endless grudge? None other, but when all your men be slain, you then must fight alone, or else accord. And he that then is king shall rule no men, nor govern nations, for consuming war will quite devour this solitary isle, not leaving any over whom to rule, nor to resist foreign invasions. If love of kingdoms be the cause of this, suppress the boiling of your haughty minds. You have approved your soldiers' forwardness, then now at last shake hands and join in league. Agree like noble kings and part the land. Have now compassion of this little isle, whose soil is manured with carcasses, and made a sea with blood of innocents. But if your emulation be so great, that either scorns to have competitors, fight then alone, and brook not equals in your dignities, fight then alone, that would be kings alone. Let not all perish for the wills of two, but let your swords decide whose title's best.
Edric, thou hittest the mark I level at. Thy counsel coming from a zealous heart fits in all points our expectation. Know I accept thereof, and offer here to prove even hand in single fight, which of us two shall wear the diadem.
Edmund, report shall never wet her tongue upon Canutus to eternize thee. I scorn to stain my reputation with abject titles of pale cowardice to make thee famous in opinion's mouth. I here accept thy challenge and his speech, glad of so fit a time to be revenged for all those foul dishonours thou hast done, and glad for sparing of that guiltless blood which in our quarrels this day had been shed. Oh, had this day been but a year ago, many a tall man had not been now alive, many a salt tear had been now unshed, by fathers for their sons' unhappy deaths, by mothers for their children's wretched ends, and widows for their husbands' timeless want. But I am glad this long-expected hour at last is come.
My lord, you shall not fight?
My lady, but I will. Will you fight for me? Give her my sword and shield.
And Edmund and Emma talks together, but we'll continue that in a moment. So Okay, I'm starting to get a handle on this. I'm starting to get a better feel for this play, and yeah, it's starting to feel like it fits within the logic of a Robin Hood play in the sense that it's all about the hand-to-hand combat between Edmund and Canutus, because even the battle scenes are hand-to-hand combat scenes, and here once again we've got a thwarted battle to set up a hand-to-hand combat scene. So this play is held together by fight scenes and cunningness of Edricus. That's what this play is doing. That's what this play is interested in. And yeah, that's starting to feel very blockbustery in a certain way. Elizabeth.
I love the line, Edricus, be brief.
Yeah. Yeah, be not tedious as well. You know, it's like we've been here before. Edricus, you've got a rep for some of your speeches. So
He just goes on and on and on. You know he could say those words in a much more concise and compact way, but he doesn't.
But yeah, but there's also this irony here in the sense that Edricus, this shape-shifting, self-serving creature, actually comes out with a really sensible plan. You know, let's have a proper conflict resolution system, which isn't going to get lots and lots of people killed. And it suddenly it sort of flows like wisdom. It's not quite, but you know it. And you know, Edmund says, you know, absolutely, yeah, bang on. And there's a nice irony. I'm liking that as sort of almost like Edricus is actually surprised once he finishes his speech. You know, he's always surprised by the fact he gets away with stuff. Lynn, then Rachael.
It feels like Edricus has to have an ulterior motive, though.
Oh, yeah.
Hoping they kill each other and then he will be able to enter the power vacuum.
Yep. Oh, yes, his sort of long aside speech that he does before the public speech is all about self-servingness. But then he does this speech, which, you know, is, if you took it out of the context of the play and you just did it as a speech separately, you go, okay, quite good. You know,
quite persuasive. Yeah, makes sense. Why should thousands of people have to die? You guys duke it out.
And say the person who gets this speech isn't some wise counsellor; it's this bastard. Rachael.
No, we were talking before about Edricus's charisma, and maybe that is his charisma, that he plays it off as if it's the good for every other person, or even when he's giving, you know, counsel to these kings, because he's not of the same rank, it seems more of an everyman giving his opinion on what, you know, people of rank, you know, how a person of who's not as high titled would perceive these things and what they would want, and they keep him for those reasons and think he's talking for the people in some way, from the people's perspective.
Any more for any more? We will finish the scene in a moment. Helen.
I think we've got a problem here. Suddenly Emma puts in an appearance, and I think it's Egina. I really do.
I think that's the setup from Emma, though, and that scene that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, because that was the camp that she was on.
Yeah. In that case, if I carry on with Emma, does someone want to take Canutus? Or, I mean, she only has one speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it, but it may sound a bit
Lynn
weird.
Lynn is spare, so we can pass that Emma speech over to Lynn. We're doing a lot of dancing today, so that's fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. We've already got some strange doubling going on, so why not? Yeah, that's cool. Let's continue. So Edmund and Emma talk together, and then Edmund turns away, presumably to go to fight.
Yet hear me, good my lord. Will you, on whom the state doth sole depend, our welfare, all the realms, your friends and kinsfolk, hazard the loss of all upon the chance of fickle fortune, since the better man is sooner killed by over-hardiness than an advised coward? Good my lord, it is undecent you should fight with him, being no king, nor having aught not to lose.
Madam, his life is even to him as dear as mine to me. Besides, he is a prince of noble blood and high resolved spirit, and if he were not, yet my cause being good and justice on my side, I would not fear, nay, could not, with my honor, but accept the speech of Edric, and in single fight approve my title lawful, good, aright. Then, madam, be content, and you shall see the God in whom I trust will succor me. Were he Goliath, I, the little king, I would not fear him on his knees to bring. But he hath rather owes to the cause to doubt of me, I being big and far more strong than he.
Egina talks to Canutus. Canutus turns away.
I had rather fight with him than scold with you.
I cannot speak, but straight you say I scold.
Then, sweeting, you must learn your tongue to hold. Nay, now you'll blubber. Go to, take this kiss and pray for me. Why stay you, Ironside?
Because I think thou art not fit to die, but rather with Egina fit to cry. My lords, I do command you for your lives, none be so hardy as to succor me, or to approach us ere the fight be done. But if I die to make my sepulchre, even in the place whereas I took my death, setting my crown upon Canutus's head, and do to him as to your sovereign.
Even so, brave followers, I will you do to Edmund here, if Edmund conquer me. Sound drums and trumpets with your warlike noise. Either begins my joy or ends my joys.
The trumpets sound, the armies do compass the two kings in the midst, and they fight!
Stay! Hold thy hand, I prithee. Breathe a while.
Not till thou yieldest or dies.
Edmund draws Canutus about.
Stay, Edmund. 'Tis not for I fear thy fortitude that thus I crave thee stay, but that I want the use of breath to prosecute the fight.
And breathe a while, I give thee leave to rest.
I fear Canutus will be overcome. Then shall I wish my tongue, the cause thereof, had been cut out when it began to speak. For I desire to drink King Edmund's blood, because he ever sought to do me good.
Egina, be content, I warrant you. I, Canutus, will do well enough.
I fear him much.
What, are you ready?
Aye, to be thy death.
And they fight again. Edmund drives Canutus back about the stage.
Stay, Edmund, stay. Canutus yields to thee.
What? Will he basely yield? The devil forfend.
Take which of these thou wilt, my hand or sword. My hand brings friendship, firm, immovable. My sword brings enmity, irrevocable.
Brave Canutus, in yielding, thou hast won. That which thy sword could never do, thy tongue hath brought to pass by gentle speech. Canutus, take my hand. Here lies my sword. Edmund is thine, his thine, himself and all. Now let us strive who shall demerit best by mutual kindness, who shall be termed a friend.
How pleasant are these speeches to my ears, Aeolian music to my dancing heart, Ambrosian dainties to my starved maw, sweet passing nectar to my thirsty throat, rare cullises to my sick glutted mind, refreshing ointments to my wearied limbs, and heavenly physic to my earth-sick soul, which erst was surfeited with woe and war.
Let me embrace thee, well-begotten friend.
They embrace.
God grant as brothers we may long embrace, and sweet Egina, for thy husband's sake and sigh of love, this kiss from Edmund take.
And Edmund kisses Egina.
But lords, why stand you still grieved you to see Canutus and your king so well agree?
The inward solace which our hearts conceive, to see peace grow where foul debate was sown, to see sweet concord spring from discord's womb, to see war bring forth love and amity, to see two mortal foes prove faithful friends, and Mars drink milk instead of purple blood, doth force our tongues, our hearts' chief orators, to show with silence joy unspeakable. Yet, lords, behold, even as you do embrace, so in dumb shows we all unite our hearts.
And the lords embrace.
Remember, Leofric, our children's loss.
Turkillus I do, and must serve the time, and wait upon occasion for revenge. A day of mirth begins a woeful year, as sudden storms do follow sunshine clear.
Now, noble lords, let us all like friends consult upon partition of this noble isle. Yourself shall choose which part you think is best, the east or west, the right hand or the left. My court is yours. My counselors are yours. My friends, your friends, thy foe, my enemy. My people yours, my treasure and myself, all are your own, for you shall all command.
Thanks, noble brother and my second self. In all thy acts thou dost excel thyself. Foul shame on them that are thy enemies, and vengeance light on them that think thee ill.
Go we unto our coasts and feast us there, and there conclude an everlasting peace. Sound drums and trumpets, here ends woeful war. Thus, hand in hand and heart in heart we go.
And I, for one, 'tis meet it should be so. Thus wise men can dissemble what they think, and till occasion fits them, sleeping wink. But I have sworn, and I will keep my vow. By heaven, I'll be revenged on both of you.
And they go out hand in hand, out of the stage, Edricus leading the drum. And it turns out war is just the friends we met along the way. That's the title, War Have Made All Friends. So, basically what happens is you get two men to have a fight, and then they become besties for the rest of time. That's the story. That's the story. Apart from all the people who really hate this. Like the people whose sons got limbs chopped off, and it's like Rachael was just putting in the chat, just going, hang on, what about that plot line? And then, the plot line, and it's not resolved, it's just going, next time on Edmund Ironside. It's just this little thing coming in there, and Edricus gets away with it. Edricus lives to fight another day. Yeah.
Well, he does until the kings start
talking to each other.
Yeah, and start both making demands on each other. And it's going to be interesting to see whose livery he ends up wearing at the feast.
But he also ends with a promise of revenge too. So, it all ends with this seeming everybody's happy. But, I don't know. Maybe in the middle of the night they're both going to try and murder each other in their beds. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not going to try and apply this to history because, I
don't.
Seriously,
don't.
This really didn't happen. So let's not worry about history. Sadly, as far as we know, there is no sequel. There may have been a sequel. It does feel like it's built for a sequel. There's quite a few plays that are built for sequels. Maybe there was one, but we don't have one. Maybe there was a sequel. Now we got to the end. Yeah, it seems to be about spectacle, sword fights, and cunning, and occasional other random limb hewings. It does feel like it's throwing a lot into the pot. throwing a lot of stuff into the pot and stirring it round. And I found it entertainment. I enjoyed myself. But yeah, still, it's not like you can sort of go, yeah, it's this. I know what this is. It's this. It's sort of lots of things. And yeah, Alan.
I must admit, I had a feeling from early on that it was just about enough text to try and hold the action sequences together. So not dissimilar to a modern blockbuster film, you know, and then throw in the comic scenes which bear little, if any, relationship to the main line of the plots, you know, but, oh, well, we've got a cheap comic here, let's chuck him on for a few lines. Not entirely sure that it worked successfully as a piece overall, other than as almost a pageant spectacle.
Well, it's one of those texts because it feels like it's one of those plays that, you know, has had a life on stage, and therefore the stage life of the original production probably works really well. But as an instruction manual for a later production, it feels like that there's probably something missing from that the magic of that text. Assuming that it was a successful play, I assume it is. At least, you know, managed a run of a reasonable number of performances, because it just has that feel of, you know, that maybe some bits got tweaked, that a more extensive battle sequence just got truncated into a chorus, and other things happened. You know, more fight scenes. I'm speculating. There's absolutely no evidence for any of that, but I'm just throwing that in there as it feels like it's a perfectly serviceable play script, but maybe not giving us enough information to fully realise it today, and that we have to make our own decisions and add things. I'll go to Alan again, then Helen.
Yeah, I must admit, I've got a thought that in fact you've got 3 actors who are the primary players, which is Canutus and Edmund. So you've got 2 actors who are good at doing fighty stuff, and you've got the clown. And I think the whole thing is built round then.
It depends who you're defining as clown, because the clown is
Stitch.
defined as Stitch. Stitch doesn't do very much. Stitch
It's
really isn't on
Edricus.
stage very often. I mean, he does a reasonable, but he doesn't say that much. Because I'd say Edricus is the more important figure. Because Edricus says a lot. And has a more of a vice quality than a clown quality in that sense. There are little nods to an earlier tradition. Helen, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I see Edricus as the protagonist here. I was thinking about what could go if we were sort of mashing it in with a whole load of pre-conquest history plays.
We don't have that many.
Well, fair enough. But if we were to go, we could actually, the mutilation doesn't do that much. The hand chopping and nose removal and stuff. It could, in fact, go. And also Emma and the kids could go, because Emma doesn't do much that is of any use. And Emma and because she's never explained, all she serves to do is utterly baffle the audience. In fact, in history, she's probably the most important person on the stage.
Yeah, and if it was more of, look, here comes Edward the Confessor, little boy, you know, as an emphasis in the scene, then I would maybe think about keeping it. But, you know, it is so random, isn't it? And I mean, the problem with the hand chopping scene, beyond its length, I think a truncated version definitely could stay. The obvious problem with it is, of course, that's the point where you sort of go, oh, Canute's not very nice. But then they all live happily ever after at the end. With some modifications. And that's odd. I mean, I'm interested in that, actually, what that does.
Historically, the Danes, Vikings, whatever, did tend to mutilate their captives for fun, according to the chroniclers.
I mean, my only real problem with that
Anglo-Saxon,
scene is that it's just a bit long. It just goes on for quite a while. And so I'd be definitely tempted to trim it back. I like the fact the final scene on one level has lots of people saying happy, 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 and then you've got these people saying, actually, no, this isn't over. You know, almost line after line. So actually, so I'm sort of that scene. I'm tempted to just sort of tweak rather than say that needs to go. Because otherwise, I think it's probably perfectly performable. It's just very odd. And I think that's one of the things for an audience today. That's one of the big barriers for audiences today of just going, what genre is it? What am I watching? When you get text where it's just going, we don't care. Which a lot of these early modern plays don't. They don't really fundamentally care. They'll throw everything into the pot and hope for the best. Any other thoughts for the closing of the play before we go around for final thoughts, which we'll be doing in just a moment? Dan, you're sitting on the fence there.
Yes. No, just I would want to see how the Emma scene played in a full staging. That's all, because I think that that scene lends a human face to it in a cast of old men fighting over who knows what.
It's a good scene. I really like all the stuff of, you know, the kids go, no, stay with me business. I think that's really human and really nice. It is just a problem. We have no idea who the hell she is.
It's where I would think that, once again, with the whole play title, the act cards, title cards in between the acts might explain a little bit who these people are, or just a little interlude in between. Also, because I suspect there might be a cut chorus, and we only got to see a glimpse of it, because I would expect that this chorus was probably at the beginning as well, and maybe showed up in other places, and for some reason we have it, just a snippet of it.
I don't know. There are I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's at least one other play where the chorus seems very much to fill in for business that's been removed. That the chorus is a later addition rather than a device that lives throughout the play. I mean, that's not to say you're wrong, but it could just be for expediency. Actually, there, just going, this bit ran long, so we've trimmed it back. But yeah, I mean, there is that sort of battle fatigue you get as well. That, you know, we've got a lot of battles. How do you keep that fresh? When, you know, once you get about a third of the way into the play, there's just quite a lot of these battle scenes. Anyway, let's go around the room for final thoughts. Technical issues means we've lost Leo, so fairly well, Leo. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I might be flagging a little bit because I had my second jab yesterday and I am feeling it today. But it really felt different today. It was a lot of willy waving today and it didn't hold my interest, which is why I said in the chat, genuinely, I am only here for the mutilation, because that was the one thing today that I was like, oh, we've got a bit more of that. Yeah, there's some good things in there, and there was an absolutely astounding moment of dreadful misogyny that was delivered beautifully by Helen. When he basically tells his wife to learn to shut up, woman. But yeah, other than that, it lost me a bit today. Yeah,
that really did jump down your throat, didn't it?
Yeah. Was that Canute? That was Canute, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially considering, you know, leaping back to the beginning of the play when we first, you know, have his wife audition for him. There's almost a through line there. I'd say it's a through line, except for these are the only two scenes where she actually says anything at the extreme ends of the play. And actually, that's something interesting about the structure of the play, is that at the beginning it felt like you were being introduced to all these families and it mattered and it was all interconnected. And then we got to about here and it's just him and him and him and him, and all the peripheral characters just sort of drifted away and they weren't as important anymore. Helen, while we're with you, final thoughts?
Yeah. Speaking not as a historian, it's an interesting little play. I think it would do better if it was stuck in a concept text of some sort. I hadn't realized between the 2 days just how much it changes from the first half to the second. I don't know. I don't think it's particularly brilliant. It has little flashes that I really like very much, but I certainly wouldn't put it high on my list to find a stage and audience for.
Yeah, it's a genuinely odd one, and you know, but it goes relatively high on our list just simply by being a vaguely history play, because I say we don't try and sell individual plays, we try and sell seasons. So by that logic, it does okay. But yeah, it's one that needs a lot of tinkering with to try and find where we're at with it. Rachael, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think from this first read, I was getting some flashes of getting where people were coming from, but you know, just because it's a first read, I don't think I really got this fully, and that there's some more stuff that was going on here that I think I'd be interested to look at in a second look.
I'm interested in that, actually, about coming into it with a second look, knowing how important Edricus is at the beginning. As at the beginning, it was sort of going, oh, he's saying some interesting stuff, and then slowly, and then, you know, this half has been very much Edricus's half, whereas he was moderately alive in the first. So, Elizabeth, you were Edricus. Any final thoughts? You're muted at the moment.
Yeah. I was thinking we should call it Edricus is mad again. Because I really liked it. I'm kind of a bit sad that I missed the first half. I'm going to go back and watch the first half and have a little look at it, because I quite enjoyed this one. I think it's a really good companion to a lot of the Turkish plays we did, because we did quite a lot of these sort of Turk plays where we had the kind of the bashors and the sort of intrigue between the courts, the leaders of the courts and things like that. But I think this is a very sort of this side of the neck of the woods play, and I really liked Ironside as a name. I thought it was very cool. I thought the name of the play itself was very, very cool. I enjoyed it. I think Edricus does go on a bit, and I think that some of his speeches could be truncated a little. But I really liked Canute and Edmund and their rivalry. I thought that was really interesting. So I do think this goes quite high on my list in terms of a lot of the Turk plays that we've done, that this kind of trumps a lot of those, because usually there's like a lot of strangling, and I don't know if anyone remembers those ones, but there's usually quite a lot of strangling and a lot of the characters die quite quickly. But in this one, Edricus gets away with it. And it's almost a sense of like, will he have a part two? So I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it a lot. Yeah, I like this play.
Yeah, and actually bringing up Turk plays, because it's quite useful actually as a segue, because you know, there's this problematic othering that's going on there, and there's problematic othering that's going on in this text as well. You know, this opposition of Dane and foreigner within an English system. I mean, that's one of the big problems actually overall, is that it's constantly talking about them. The fact that the play does actually bring everyone together in some level of amiability may mitigate that, but there is a lot of work that may need to be done to mitigate some of that, or find a framing device or something. Alan, any final thoughts?
Not an awful lot to add. I'm not sure that as you say, there's quite a lot of work probably needs to be done to tidy it up and bring it forward. And whenever that point is raised, I always instinctively think, well, actually, is that amount of effort going to be profitably spent? You know, I think that there's probably quite a lot of tinkering one would have to do, and whether the end result would be worthwhile.
But you never know. And also, the thing about doing tinkering and returning to things is we to a degree, the point of what we're doing is to return to the texts that are the least obviously suitable. Because actually we spent perhaps too long looking at Spanish tragedy, which is a pretty straightforward play to do because it's got a modern performance history. I did that because we needed some fun tongue-biting action. Every so often you have to do something familiar. But actually, we should perhaps return to this sooner because actually it's a challenge that will exercise our muscles in terms of solid-state dramaturgy. That said, there's quite a list of things to look at. I'm interested. Actually, just talking about going back to Elizabeth's point about trimming back Edricus, and I was sort of thinking, well, one way of getting plays on stage is to go, "Hi, you're a famous actor. Here's a part you would like to chew the scenery for," and that's a framing for this play. Actually, to say, "Hi, have you met Edricus?" Because actually I can think of quite a few actors who would really quite enjoy that and who would probably walk away if you said, "Oh yeah, we're going to make some cuts." That might of course turn the play into a monster, but hey, why not? Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, one of my final thoughts is the play's a bit of a monster already dramaturgically. I mean, there's some things in this text that would really disorient a modern audience because our expectations are different. Like the fact that there's a chorus that shows up once in the middle of the play. I mean, a modern audience can accept a chorus, but you have to introduce that a lot earlier than once in the middle of the play. That's just going to feel really like, oh, here, I didn't know, I, the playwright, didn't know how to fix this, so I wedged in a chorus because I'm not that skillful. And Emma is similar, that she's Edmund's stepmother and mother of two royal sons, one of whom actually does become king later. Politically, she's actually quite important, but the playwright waits till the play is 3/4 over to introduce her. That's really awkward, and it's going to, and a modern audience is going to be like, what? So, I'm a fan of being adapty if you need to be adapty. So you either get rid of those problems or you add a few chorus lines in the beginning and then some in the middle and then some near the end. So the chorus looks more integrated, and you have Emma show up in the first court scenes, even if she says very little. You just have to try to signal that this is part of Edmund's family. She's the dowager queen and his stepmother, so that when she shows up and has a real acting scene in the middle, you already know who she is.
Yeah, we need a funeral for Ethelred at the very top of the scene, or a play or something like that.
Something like that. But it strikes me as very dramaturgically sloppy, and that bugs me. So that's something that if we wanted to produce this, I would say just don't hesitate to really massage the text to make it feel a little less cobbled together. I don't have a problem with it being Edricus's play, even though Edricus has no historical equivalent. Maybe he's sort of actually an allegory. Edricus is kind of the personification of political intrigue. He's the reason that we can't all just get along. He's just sort of the personification of that. He doesn't have a human equivalent in history. He's a force. So I think you could do cool things with Edricus, but again, you want to somehow hint from early in the play that this is actually his play.
Yeah, I mean, he does speak very early on the first time. It's just we weren't aware that was important at the time, and it's a long speech as well. Actually, he's got the longest speech I think in the first scene for quite a long time until everybody else starts plotting behind other people's backs. And it's the fact that you've got these other plotters early on who don't really go anywhere. They rebel, they go over to Edmund's side, their sons get their hands chopped off, and we don't see them again until the end of the play. feels a bit of a waste. Anyway, Dan, any final thoughts? We're at the end of the play. You can say whatever you like.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to not pull an Edricus and try to be brief. Yeah, I'm going to just first off say 100% everything Elizabeth said. Also, I tend to take a different point of view dramaturgically. I think it's actually very sound. I think this is actually a fairly easy play to put up. I think it is exactly like a Hollywood blockbuster today. And for that reason, I think it would be an easy sell. And also, I think audiences would tend to understand immediately that Edricus is the driving force behind this play because of that monologue in the I believe it was to open up Act 2 or at the end of Act 1. It's obvious you're going to be on his side there. The reason this play, I'm really glad appeals to me a lot because of its historical value. As a history play, it's set in and of itself, I think it's a high selling point because I do think that there's a huge audience for people who just want to know about fictionalized English history plays. So that in and of itself, easy sell. Now, once again, talking from the historical point of view of this play, it's a manuscript play. It's one that has a stage life that we know about because it's been marked for performance by a bookkeeper. The same bookkeeper who's also modified the script for Looking Glass for London. Also the Captives by Heywood, which we'll do later. And also another play, The Two Noble Ladies. And it exists in the same manuscript collection, which Helen is familiar with because I think she also saw it too. It's at the BL. It has 11 or 12 of these plays in this huge stack that you're not allowed to take photos of. The fact that it has this historical value of a play that has an actor listed from the 1620s and then also has actors known from the 1640s does tend to show that this play had a shelf life there and was constantly being staged. And the fact that this was this manuscript that was being used also says to me, this play was stageable in its state. And only about 200 lines were, I think, cut from the script that we have and which we actually read out there. So while there might be missing parts like the chorus, and I absolutely agree that this chorus just comes out of nowhere, the Emma scene definitely comes out of nowhere, but I do think serves a purpose. And I think staging wise, it's one of those things, if you've ever read a play, then seen it later and thought, oh, okay, got it. This is one of those plays, especially with all the war scenes, going off of the Turkish plays that we've done that don't seem to make a lot of sense until you actually try to see them staged. Like, well, Battle of Alcazar is always an example. So for all of those reasons, I'm firmly on board for a second reading and very high on my list.
Any additional thoughts in the room? I think I've gone around everyone. Anyone want to leap in off anything anyone said? Briony.
I just feel like because I did mention a couple of weeks ago about how I wish we'd do more, and I was talking more about mythology from this country, but at least it's a fictional history from this country, which does make a change from all of these Turkish wars, and let's randomly set a play in Italy or the other stuff that's going on at the time.
Yeah. Yes. Coming soon. More plays randomly set in Italy. But yes, we have got a fair mix of. There's still a lot more history plays to do. I think I was counting how many ones overall to do is somewhere around 50 odd English history plays. That is, of which we've done a fair number. It has to be said. We are starting to fill in some of those earlier gaps in the narrative. We don't have a complete narrative, but we definitely have these little zooming ins in the pre-conquest stuff. We've got a bit more Roman stuff to do. So yeah, there's plenty of that we'll be diving into. And as we go forward, as we start marching more into the 17th century, we're running out of 16th century now. Then we're going to get other genres and other things winging their way towards us. So all that remains is to thank, if nobody else has anything else they want to throw in, you can. We've still got a moment before I should really close this session. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers present and dipped out for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Oh.
Malice hath a perfect memory.